Mother-in-law demanded I rename my newborn baby, because it sounded like a slur to her, and when I refused and invited her to dinner to talk it out, she got arrested and my husband took her side and left us. This started a few weeks ago, but I'd never used Reddit before and wasn't sure how to do one of these. For context, I'm mixed race, white and Middle Eastern from my mom. My mom had been Hebrew but changed denominations after moving to America and meeting my dad. My husband, and his mom, is African American. I, 32F, have recently had my first baby. I'd given up on love when I met John, 40M, a year next week. What started as a one-night stand, then following encounters, turned into a shotgun wedding, but we weren't upset about this. John hadn't had many girlfriends before and he claims he was happy to settle down. I had much the same feelings. We got married in August and I met his mother 2 days before our courthouse wedding/yard party. She was, honestly, one of the most amazing people I'd ever met. I never had a mother of my own really, and she was everything I'd ever wanted. She planned my baby shower, surprised me with a birthday party, and so much more during the pregnancy. I went into labor a week early, in mid-March. She and the rest of his family stayed away and let us update to them on our time. My beautiful baby girl was born on March 19th at 2:19 a.m. This is where the issue starts. That same day around lunch we let John's mom and stepdad come visit. We'd had several names picked out, some of which Mill helped me choose. However, I looked into my daughter's eyes and knew her name. Context: my mom's name was Nessa. She had been a wonderful lady I'd never been able to meet. So, I chose Nissa instead, said like Nissa. My Mill said nothing at first. She took photos, hugged my husband, was going on about how pretty our daughter was, but never said anything to me. I'd not noticed at the time, I'd been exhausted and out of it, and they'd left soon after. My husband said something to his mom about it after they left over text, and my Mill went off about the dirty slur-like name I chose. And said I was disrespectful and racist for not asking her first. What? My husband waited until we were home to tell me about this and asked if this was a hill we were willing to die on. I was shocked. He loved the name when I brought it up. He says his mom is right and it's 2 letters off from being the exact word. Only, it's not the word. He slept on the couch. I hoped, over the last few weeks, she would get over it along with him. He eventually conceded it was a dumb request and stood his ground to his mom. She came over the next day while he was at work and told me either I'd change it or she'd tell my husband our baby isn't his. I ended up crying and she left, but I texted my husband and her in a group chat after and told them there's no way in hell I'm renaming my 3-week baby and told my husband what she said. Of course, she denied it. It started another fight with my husband and he hasn't slept in the bed for a week now. He keeps telling me I'm being overly sensitive over a name and that I'd never even knew my mom so it doesn't matter. So AITA for refusing to rename my baby BC. My Mill thinks it sounds like a slur? Is it? Is it worth fighting for a name when I can just pick another because she's not even that old? I feel backed into a corner and starting to feel like my husband is right and to give in to his mom. He keeps telling me he thinks the name is wonderful and beautiful but not worth the drama. Maybe this is how moms are? Edit 1. It felt strange to me to name my baby Nessa because I did not know my mother. I wanted to honor her still. Nissa was a name they considered for me before meeting me and making their decision. I chose it because I thought it was beautiful and a great way to honor her. Edit 2. Since so many people asked, and I don't want anyone to be confused. Mom was Jewish. I've seen a lot of Jewish hate and was nervous about publicizing that. Her family converted to Judaism at some point? Maybe? Possibly? According to my father, and eventually she became a Christian because that's what my father was when they married. Also, thank you everyone who makes respectful comment. Thank you to the people who respectfully told me a different perspective. I'm overwhelmed by the amount of love I've received. I finally had enough and my husband slept in the bed last night. He told me he really liked the name but his mom wasn't going to let it go. So, I decided to have his mom and co for dinner tomorrow night. We'll see how that goes. Update: a lot happened at dinner and I've been feeling really down since then. I've waited to see if there'd be anything else to update you guys on as well, but so far it's been quiet. At least for the past week. So, I did invite my Mill and Phil over for dinner. It did not go well. It was tense from the start. I tried to calmly explain why I chose my daughter's name and what it means to me. I also asked her directly why she felt so strongly about it and tried to understand where she was coming from, but she didn't really give me a clear answer. She kept spouting something about how I'd made her son into a bad father? I'd where this came from? And doubling down on some of the other stuff she already said. She even questioned my daughter's paternity again. At first, my husband was kind of agreeing with her or at least not really pushing back, which made things worse. But then she said something really derogatory toward me, plus the bad parent thing and paternity issue, and that's when things changed. My husband finally stepped in and told her she was out of line. After that, we asked them to leave early. They refused, and it turned into a huge fight. It escalated to the point where we had to call the cops. It somehow got even worse from there. She started yelling at the officers about how they should be dealing with me for terrorism, and she even assaulted one of them. They ended up taking her in, which led to a fight between me and John, about how she wasn't going to take up any of her threats, even though he was the one who told me to call the cops. And he left. My Phil returned the next morning and offered to watch Nissa for me while I went and talked to John. He'd been nothing but neutral the entire time and had even been helping me the night before, to get my Mill out. We ended up sitting down and talking, and he said he was going to divorce Mill because she'd always been racially insensitive to his experiences and downright crazy to his adult children. And now there was no denying her ugliness with my situation, and he wished for me to tell John to suck it and divorce him too, or to at least tell him to grow the hell up and smell the fresh air. He would never grow up with my Mill as involved as she was. Y'all, my Phil told me, until he and Mill married, my husband slept in her bed. He was literally 29. He told me a lot more disturbing things I don't want to repeat. I ended up telling Phil I wasn't prepared to talk to my husband. He had said a lot of ugly things the night before, and I asked Phil to tell John he could pick up some clothes but he'd have to stay with them or find a motel. The last I heard, Phil went to stay at a hotel, Mill was bailed out by John, and John and Mill have been staying at their house. I've never felt so alone. The only thing I'm sure about is my baby girl's name. Nissa Rose, and probably my last name. Sorry it took so long to post. Next story. I, 23F, moved in with my boyfriend, 24M, of 2 years a couple months ago. We haven't had any problems before this argument. Things had been going pretty well. Anyways, a couple days ago, I got my period. It came early and I had ran out of pads. I couldn't leave to buy some because I bleed pretty heavily and I would have bled through my pants. So I asked my boyfriend if he could buy pads for me from the drugstore, because it was late. He immediately said no. I was shocked because I wasn't really expecting that. I asked him why. He said that he didn't want the cashier to see him buying pads. At this point I started laughing because that was hilarious. He wasn't joking though. He just glared at me. I told him that the cashier would obviously know it wasn't for him. Plus, the cashier would definitely not care what he was buying. He still refused. I told him that he could go to the self-checkout machine if he was so insecure, but he said that he didn't want anyone to see him with the pads because they'd think he was a TRY. I told him that he was childish, and that his masculinity was really fragile if he couldn't even buy pads for his own girlfriend. He got mad and went out. I had to bunch up toilet paper as a makeshift pad, wear black pants and a long cardigan and go buy the pads myself. My boyfriend has been ignoring me ever since. I've been thinking that maybe I might have pushed it too far. So AITA for telling my boyfriend that his masculinity was fragile after he refused to buy pads for me? Edit. Wow, thank you for all your replies. I'm definitely going to have a serious talk with my boyfriend in the morning about this and we'll see how it goes. Comments where Op has replied. Comment 1. NTA, if he is man enough to go buy condoms, he should be man enough to buy other genital related products. He is more concerned what random cashier number 34 is thinking about him than he is about doing something for you as a boyfriend. I wonder why he is so insecure about random strangers possibly thinking he might be trans. That is quite a leap in a thought process. Did he have that happen before? Oop, no, this was really shocking to me. I'd never asked him to buy pads for me before because we never lived together, but I honestly didn't think he would react like this. I also didn't know he was transphobic, so that didn't quite sit well with me. Comment 2. Absolutely NTA. I would do this for my girlfriend in a heartbeat, no questions asked. It's not that much to ask, especially when you're in need. The fact that he used the word tranny also really drives home how wrong he is in the scenario. He really needs to reevaluate his priorities here. This is unacceptable and doesn't only seem like fragile masculinity to me, but toxic masculinity. Edit. I hope this isn't regular behavior on his part. It represents a massive lack of maturity and empathy, and frankly he should be embarrassed. There is no scenario in which you would be the asshole for this, and I sure hope he hasn't made you feel that way. Sorry you've got to deal with this, it legitimately makes me upset to imagine someone could be that way. Oop, thanks, I honestly was pretty shocked because I've never seen him act like this before. It's like I was seeing a whole new side of him, and it was disappointing. Update, first off, thank you for all your awards, replies and stories, they all mean so much to me. I confronted my boyfriend an hour ago. We sat down together and I told him that I didn't like how he acted about buying pads for me. He said that he didn't feel like he had to, and that I could have held it in and drove to the drugstore to get the pads myself. I told him that you can't hold in menstrual blood, but he insisted that I could have done it for a few minutes and that it wouldn't be a big deal. We went back and forth over this, so I just dropped it. I asked him, like most of you mentioned, what would happen when we have kids and he'd have to take care of me and buy me nipple cream, take me to the washroom, etc. He said that I would not need those things because I should be able to do them on my own after giving birth. He said that there wasn't anything hard about using the bathroom and the only reason I'd need help is if I was a cripple. Then I asked him about the TRY comment. He said that he didn't understand why people would want to change the gender they were born in. That basically cemented everything for me. I felt completely betrayed and humiliated. I can't believe I spent 2 years of my life with a guy who holds these views, and I can't believe I was too oblivious to it. I just feel so dumb. I told him that we need to break up. He cussed at me and told me that I was exaggerating and that I was being a bitch. I told him that I would send him my half of this month's rent. We lived together, but it was his appartement, so we would split the bill. Then I packed my bags and drove to my parents' house without saying another word. I'm gonna be staying with my parents until I sort myself out. I'm feeling really down right now, because I really did love him, but I also feel relieved. Again, thank you all for helping me out, and sending me encouraging messages. I appreciate it all.